Howdy Higgins. I hope you all had a good weekend and you're ready for another week of this. So we're into week 8. Can you believe it? This is our 8th week at home. And it's looking like we're going to have up until the Easter holidays. So we have a few weeks to keep ourselves going. Remember, we're looking to get through all the theory and we're looking to move on to have our CBA ready. So that's the plan, and then we're practical all the way to the summer and into our exam. Weeks revision before that. All right, so that's the plan as is laid out. That's the aim, that's the goal. We will chat in the live lesson on Thursday about CBAs again, but really you should be well on the way to getting a nice layout done. A good few of you have not shared documents with me yet, not shared slides or keynotes or with me yet, and you should, because you could spend weeks going down the wrong path and looking at something that's not measurable, and you'll have to start again. So you share it with me, let me see it, let me have a look at it, and I'll get back to you. Everyone who's emailed me or asked for a conference to chat about their CBA, I've said yes, and I've gotten back to them. So if you haven't and you want to, because it's literally going to be when we get back here, here's the lab, there's your equipment, and off you go. So really try and take it seriously now and get something down on paper, get it all laid out before we go back. That's important, or you just won't get graded on it, and it won't be missing from your junior cycle profile of achievement, your junior cert, essentially. Okay, so last week we were on this topic here. We were on respiration, and we went through all the different parts of respiration, and we answered some questions which we corrected on Thursday. And I just wanted to remind you of this equation here. Glucose from food, oxygen from the air, respiration happens inside the cells, and then carbon dioxide is released back into the air. Water is released in a couple of ways, and then of course the idea of respiration is the release of energy from food. And I'm reminding you of that because of the other half of this topic that we're going to now, which is photosynthesis, which is this one here, okay? So this is our topic for this week. And when we finish photosynthesis, what we do is we look at the exam questions from respiration and photosynthesis together, because they're both under the heading of, what's it called again? Cell something. Usually cell metabolism in Leaving Cert, but in Junior Cert, the cell, what's it called? Cell processes in Junior Cert. Okay, so basically how cells act, what they take in, what they give out, how they respire, and so on. We don't actually go into what respiration is or what photosynthesis is, but we do look at them in some, I suppose, some amount of detail. So this is our second one here, right? Photosynthesis. And we'll have a look at this and go through some of this bit. So essentially, here's a video here. If you get kind of fed up, you're not sure by the end of this class, this video, and you think I'd rather listen to someone else talk about it, this link here goes through the whole video. So it's a photosynthesis lesson done by someone else. It's part of one of the textbooks, and it's from YouTube. Okay, so there's a link there you can have a look at. So what do we need to know? What kind of things can they ask us? So it comes down to the brass tacks of what they can ask us in an exam. They can ask us a definition. What's photosynthesis? What is it? What's phototropism? Right, all new stuff. Enzymes we've dealt with before. Optimum temperature we've dealt with before in respiration. So optimum is the best. What temperature does it work best at? And a biochemical process we've dealt with before. Because they're plants are biological organisms as well as animals are. So they have biochemical processes. So it's basically anything chemical that happens inside something alive. We're going to write a photosynthesis equation like we wrote a respiration equation, but I'll show you it's going to be quite easy if you remember the respiration one. That's what I showed you before. How does photosynthesis actually happen? Why is photosynthesis important to feed us? Extremely important. And identify a couple of factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. Remember we looked at the things that can affect the rate of respiration? Amount of sugar, temperature, pH, they can all affect the rate of respiration. We're also going to look at the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. And this I'm going to put a star beside because some of this we're going to do later. Some of this we'll do later as well, because I will give you some plants when we get back to the lab, and I will get you to prove that photosynthesis happens and that we can speed it up and slow it down by messing around with a few of the factors. This experiment involves me getting myself to a beach over a weekend and grabbing up seaweed. That's the best way to show photosynthesis. But I will do that for you, and we will do this experiment, and we'll prove that we can mess around with the speed that a plant can photosynthesize. Another one is this one here. We can prove that plants undergo phototropism. You're saying, well, you haven't even told us what phototropism is yet, but you'll see that we can prove this, what phototropism is, whatever it is. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so photosynthesis is important. It's really important, because it removes carbon dioxide from the air. And you're thinking, oh yeah, I remember that from the carbon cycle. Photosynthesis is how you get carbon dioxide out of the air, so it removes it from the atmosphere, keeps Greta Thunberg happy, stops the global warming, the climate change. So having plants doing this photosynthesis thing takes it out of the air, so the carbon dioxide, and it stops global warming. And I said that, I've probably told this before, we have this, we made this kind of deal with plants years and years ago. We said to them, right, listen, if you take the carbon dioxide and you give us out oxygen, we'll use the oxygen in our lungs and we'll give you carbon dioxide. And that was a nice deal, because we need the oxygen, they need the carbon dioxide. And that was kind of going really well until the last 60, 70 years, where we start pumping loads of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere from burning fossil fuels and 3-litre diesel engines and all this kind of stuff. And then at the same time, we cut down all the plants to build car parks and roads and housing estates. So there's nothing there to take away the carbon dioxide. And we're sending loads of carbon dioxide up into the atmosphere. So that's why we're getting this kind of globally, warmly climate change problem at the moment. Okay, photosynthesis provides O2 for breathing and respiration. So as nice as it is to have green spaces, green fields and parks and trees and flowers and all this kind of thing, it's kind of important that photosynthesis happens, because most people do better when they have oxygen around them. So photosynthesis, it provides with oxygen, and it's also a food source for plants and a food source for animals. So if plants don't photosynthesize, if they don't make their own food, then they don't survive and grow. They don't produce things. I know you think your idea of a plant is probably a load of roots under the ground and a stem and a couple of leaves coming across and a nice center and a load of petals around the outside. That might be your idea of a plant. But if you take it into another type of plant, where you just have a stem with a few leaves coming off, and under the ground you have things like a carrot, that's a plant. Or this here could be a potato. That's why we call them root vegetables. So you think of a plant that, okay, well, we won't have flowers to give people for their birthday, but really, if photosynthesis doesn't happen, we don't get things like fruits, vegetables, grains, and obviously that causes a massive problem. So 1, for oxygen, and 2, for food. So 2 of the major things that humans need: oxygen to breathe and food in order to live. You might think, well, I'm a meat eater, I only eat steak, so I don't really care about the plants, because I can have steak and eggs and I'll be happy out. Well, if you go down the line, well, okay, the plants don't survive, they can't photosynthesize, they don't survive. But then what's the cow going to eat? So photosynthesis is massively important for all life on Earth. Extremely important. Okay, definition is, so photosynthesis is the way plants make food using light. So if you break the word down there, a photograph is a graph of light. So photo means light, and synthesis is to make or produce. So making or produce something using light. That's what photosynthesis is, the way plants make their food using light. Now, I said there was a relationship. Someone asked me this question in the chat last Thursday. Isn't there a relationship between the equation for respiration and the equation for photosynthesis? There is. And over here on the right hand side, you'll see They're the exact opposite of one another. So you remember what you had in respiration, you had glucose and oxygen, and we spit out carbon dioxide and water. Whereas this time, plants take in carbon dioxide and water, and they turn it into glucose and oxygen. But the only thing that they need, and it's important that they get, they have to have some light. Plants don't photosynthesize in the dark. And they have to have chlorophyll. You ever playing a football match and you're wearing a nice pair of tracksuit bottoms and you slide on your knees and the knees get that green stuff on them, that green stain in them? That's chlorophyll. That's what chlorophyll is. And you might remember back years and years ago when you were only first years and you were asked to draw a diagram of a plant cell, and you had the cell wall and you had the cell membrane and you had the nucleus and you had a big vacuole looking thing like that. The other things you had in there were things, they're like M&M kind of shapes like that. And what they are chloroplasts. So chloroplasts, and they contain a chemical pigment, green stuff called I think that's how you spell it, contains chlorophyll. Okay, so inside a cell you have chloroplasts and they contain chlorophyll. Okay, I'm breaking it, did I? I did. Okay, so that's that stuff here in the equation. So in order for photosynthesis to happen, they have to have light and they have to have chlorophyll. Right, we did this before. Photosynthesis is a chemical product. Remember, so it's chemistry because you're getting products. It's biological because it happens inside something living. So photosynthesis is a biochemical reaction because it produces a product, and it does that inside living cells. So we call it a biochemical process or a biochemical reaction. Okay, so step by step, how it works. Plants take in carbon dioxide. So plants take in carbon dioxide through little pores. Now, the way you have little pores in your skin, you might have little pores in your nose, for example. Plants have little pores on their leaves instead. So little pores in their leaves, they're called stomata. Stomata, they're funny looking things. They kind of look like a pair of lips, really. So you kind of have, if you were to draw a stomata, I will actually be able to show you these. If you get a leaf and you cover it in clear nail varnish and put it under a microscope, I don't know why, but for some reason you can see these pores. They kind of look like kind of two kidney beans or two lips like that. So here's your pore in the middle here. And the carbon dioxide then, so CO2, comes from the air and can go in through the pore, and that brings it inside the leaf. Okay, so that's the first thing. So plants don't have lungs. Most of them don't have lungs and tracheas and alveoli and capillary networks outside your alveoli. They haven't got that. They just have a leaf. And the leaf had little pores and the carbon dioxide goes in there. They also take water in through their roots. And a lot of people say this. My next door neighbour does, you up on a ladder trying to water this tree. We're using the hose. He does. I haven't the heart to tell him, he's doing it years, but he's watering the top of the tree using a ladder 6 nights a week out the front. And but plants don't take water in anywhere else other than through the roots. So even the biggest tree, you water the roots. Sunlight comes in through the chloroplast. This is where the chloroplast comes in. And inside the chloroplast, you have this chlorophyll stuff that we spoke about. This absorbs sunlight. So you kind of think, what have we got now? Right, we've taken in the carbon dioxide through the stomata. We've taken in the water through the roots. We've taken in the sunlight through the chloroplasts. And that goes into the chlorophyll. Then we can have respiration. So we have all the things we need. Carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, and chlorophyll. There's number 1, there's number 2, there's number 3, and there's number 4. So back to our equation. There we go. Okay. Yes, came in through the stomata. Yes, came up through the roots. Yes, absorbed by the chlorophyll. Okay, so you have the two of them, but they're only absorbed, but they're both responsible for the light. So we're getting bought. We've all the things that we need in order for photosynthesis to occur. And it occurs. And the whole idea of photosynthesis is a plant can make their own grub. So they can make their own food. You're not going to get a plant going up and popping off down to Burger King and grabbing something. They're stuck. They're in the ground. They're stuck by roots. So the only way they can do it is by taking things in from the air and from the soil. So after photosynthesis occurs, oxygen can leave the plant through the stomata again. So same way here, here's your pore, and when photosynthesis happens, the oxygen can come out, which is good for humans. That's what we want. There it is there. I'm not losing it. Where's the stomata? Sorry. There it is there. So the oxygen comes out through the stomata. The glucose, remember glucose is a fancy name for food. So the food the plant has made stays in the plant, and the plant wants to use that for himself. So you might think, oh, it's not just a generous carrot plant using all its energy, all its water, all its sunlight, using its own chlorophyll to make us carrots. But it's not. The plant makes carrots for the plant. We just happen to take them up and eat them. Same as a lettuce plant makes lettuce for itself. So it's making that nice orangey sweet stuff. Strawberry plants the same, bananas the same. The plant is making it for themselves, either to feed itself, or it hides its seeds somewhere in the middle in the hope that an animal will eat it and move it some other place and reproduce into new strawberry trees or banana trees or apple trees, things like that. Okay, so but it stays in the plant. Onward slightly. Plants use carbon dioxide and water to make glucose. So here's just the equation again. So they use carbon dioxide and water to make glucose. Herbivores, you have three types. You have herbivores, you have carnivores, and you have omnivores. So herbivores are plants only. Omnivores eat anything, and carnivores just eat meat. And I'm not going into this in too much detail because our last 2 weeks of the term is based on ecology, and we're going to be doing a lot about herbivores, carnivores, producers, consumers, all that kind of stuff as we look at a habitat study and so on. Okay, so herbivores eat plants for energy. Then herbivores are eaten and the energy is transferred. So have a look here. So here's if we look at the path of energy, here it all starts at the sun. The light then goes into the plant. The plant is eaten by an animal that eats plants. And that animal is eaten by an animal that eats animals. And that animal is eaten by an animal that eats animals. So you think, if you're a chicken, the chicken relies on this, I think it's a beetle, to eat the plant. If anything happens to the plant, if we take the plant out of this situation, that means there's nothing for the beetle to eat. If the beetles go, there's nothing for the chicken to eat. And if the chicken goes, there's nothing for humans to eat. So photosynthesis, if this part here doesn't happen, we're in serious trouble. So this is looking at the energy. Energy goes from the sun to the plant and then upwards. So if anything happens to plants, we seem okay to cut them down and pare them back and build all sorts of stuff on top of them. But if we don't have enough space for plants, everything else goes as well. Because of photosynthesis, massively, massively important. Okay, so animals eat other animals, and then energy is passed along the food chain. So it's all about energy moving. So the energy is moving from the bottom up. If plants can't photosynthesize, it's a massive problem. The whole thing collapses down and we lose the food chain, we lose the energy transfer, and life on the planet would cease. Okay, not going into this again. Carbon cycle, I just put it in there because it's related to this, but we've already done this. So glucose is made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So carbon provides the energy. There's a fixed amount of carbon on Earth, so it must be recycled. So the whole idea of the carbon cycle is that it goes up into the atmosphere, then it comes back down, then it either gets burned or respired back up. Animals inhale it, And then plants use this carbon dioxide to make glucose. We eat the plants and exhale it, and it keeps going round and round and round. So basically you've done the carbon cycle already, so we're not going into that again. Okay, now one of the last things we have to take a look at, I've got 4 things left, but we're not far off now. We've done the nitty gritty of it. So things that can mess around, and this is going to be an experiment that I am going to do with you. I will prove this to you. I have a lot of experiments to do with you and a lot of proving to do when I get back, but don't worry, we'll make time. If we mess around with the carbon dioxide levels, if we increase the carbon dioxide levels, photosynthesis should happen faster. If I put loads of oxygen into you, you're going to breathe faster. You put loads of carbon dioxide into plants, they're going to photosynthesize faster. Temperature. You can see that, can't you? Plants don't do much photosynthesizing when it's cold. If it's really, really hot, plants can't photosynthesize. So same as respiration, it is temperature specific. And the amount of light. If you've no light, that's going to be very difficult for photosynthesizing. So I'm not going to tell you the exact answers to those. But basically, this is going to involve you having plants and with lamps, and you're going to be measuring as you move the plant, the light further away from the plant, how's the photosynthesis level change. The trick is how do you see a plant producing its own food? And that's where it involves me going out to the beach with a bucket of a weekend. But we'll get to that again. Okay, so last couple. Temperature, first off. So just go through a few of these. So remember we did this before. Enzymes are catalysts. One of you doing a good CBA on this at the moment. And they control the rate. So enzymes control the rate of photosynthesis. Enzymes have a very specific temperature that they like to work at. Too hot, they don't work so well. Too cold, they don't work so well. Really hot, and you came across the word last time, they can denature. So they have a particular temperature to work at their maximum, so they're fastest. If the temperature is low, the rate of photosynthesis is low. If it's too high, the rate of photosynthesis can stop. Same as the enzymes that are in respiration. And what happens is then, because the enzyme gets destroyed or denatured. Things like greenhouses can help keep the temperature warm. So if you're working for Keeling's Fruit and you're trying to sell people a punch of strawberries for $4.50 out of Centra, then you're not going to want people stopping to buy their strawberries in December just because it's cold. So what they do is they produce big, massive versions of this. We have one at the back of the school actually. I bought one back in October, and we're going to be growing our own seeds with the TYs now in the spring. But the idea is that, and you've heard of the greenhouse effect, but what it does is it keeps the plants nice and warm. If the plants are nice and warm, it means their enzymes can work. If you add light in there, you'll see up here, this one here has lights, so heat lamps. So it'll keep it nice and bright, nice and warm, and the plants think, oh, it must be summer. Let's photosynthesize and make loads of our own food in the form of strawberries and raspberries that Mr. Keelings wants us to sell. And they produce all day long. If they're left outside, they'll still produce stuff, but only when the temperatures are right. Or if they are producing, it'll be very slow. Okay, second last one, I think. So if we have low amounts of carbon dioxide, it's going to be low rates of photosynthesis. High amounts of carbon dioxide, well, it's going to happen quicker. So I'll give you a chemical. I'll give you a carbonate, calcium carbonate, which has loads of carbon dioxide. It's like the stuff, the stuff you get in a Barocca tablet that makes it fizz. When it fizzes, it's releasing carbon dioxide. So I'll give you something that releases loads of carbon dioxide, and the plant that you're using should photosynthesize nice and quickly. So low CO2, slow photosynthesis. High CO2, loads of photosynthesis. Okay. Same with light. If you have low light intensity, in our case, if the lamp is far away, photosynthesis is going to happen slowly, like in the winter. If you have loads of light, so in our case, if the lamp is right beside the plant, well, it's going to happen much quicker. Now, this last one, right, very last one is this, because I know you kind of haven't come across this name yet, phototropism. Phototropism, right? Tropism is a plant responding, so it's a growth response. So phototropism is a growth response to light. So to ensure that a plant gets as much light, more light means more photosynthesis. So the plant will grow towards the light. So if you look at this plant here, see this plant here, and it's growing towards the light. One thing that freaks me out is sunflowers. And we decided to plant sunflowers in the front garden, and they're the freakiest things ever. That if you go out in the morning and the whole lot of them are facing one direction, and then you come home in the afternoon and it's like they're looking at you. The head of the sunflower has completely moved. You're thinking, how has that turned its head? But it hasn't. It's just growing quite quickly, and it's growing in the direction of the sun. This plant here in the pot there, you can see, and if you have a plant and it's sitting beside a window, often the plant will fall over because the plant will grow in the direction of the light. And that plant, you can see, is growing towards the window, towards the light, because if it gets more light, it can photosynthesize, which means it can make lots of glucose, lots of food for itself. Okay, like I said, we're going to on Thursday we're going back to CBA, and we're gonna correct these questions that I'm about to show you now, and we're gonna go back to CBA, which you should be making significant progress in now. If you aren't, get on to me and ask me. So I'm going to give you some questions now based on phototropism, and then on Thursday what we're going to do, we're going to correct our photosynthesis. We're going to correct these questions, and we're going to have a look at a few other questions, so exam questions based on respiration and photosynthesis. What kind of thing are they asking about this in the L Junior Cert when it comes around? So what I want you guys to do, so these are, and again, it's one of these shady ones as well, so it won't take you 20 minutes or so. So these are due before Thursday. So make sure you're uploading these. I've been filling out reports and saying people haven't done this, that, and the other. But just make sure they're up there online for me to see, so I can see you're actually making progress with these topics, and that you're working towards the summer exam. Again, same process. Copy the whole lot into your homework folder and shade it in, or write in your answers into your copy, take a picture and stick it in. And you have a couple of questions based on basically what we did today, all about different parts of photosynthesis. But again, won't take you much long at all. And I'm giving you really, really short exercises to do during the week, because I am trusting in you that you are working on the CBAs, which is a big body of work, and it will also count to, I think, 30% of your summer exam goes for your CBA, your CBA 1. So tap away and work away at that. There's loads of stuff online on the Schoology, examples of work, how we grade it. It's all there for you in the folder, in the Higgins Science group in Schoology. Ask me if you're not sure. Okay, so they're your questions to be done for the next day. And there's a couple of revision notes down the bottom. Don't worry about those. They're just there for coming up to the summer exam. But these are your questions here to be done by then. I will chat to you all on Thursday in the live lesson for correction of these, for more CBA work, and to look at the exam questions associated with respiration and photosynthesis. Thanks, guys. You have my email. If there's anything you need, have a great week. Talk to you later.